We, at the Women's Forum for the Economy and Society, want to express our support to innovators, young talent, mayors, governors, education leaders, businesses and investors who are joining forces for the first time to declare that they will engage to support climate action to meet the Paris Agreement. In December 2015 in Paris, world leaders signed the first global commitment to fight the climate change. The landmark agreement succeeded because nations, inspired by the action of local and regional government and along with businesses, came to recognize that fighting climate change brings significant economic and public health benefits. We affirm that women are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effect of climate change, and women constitute the majority of the world's poor, are more dependent for their livelihood of natural resource. We also acknowledge that women are essential agents for change who possess a crucial knowledge and expertise that can be used in mitigating the effect of climate change, in a disaster prevention and reduction, and developing strategies to adaptation of the adverse effect of climate change.
As women leaders, we want to claim our commitment to the global mobilization for climate change and the implementation of the Paris Agreement, accelerating action and supporting each other and every stakeholder wanting to keep the promise of the Paris Agreement, maintaining temperature rise well below 2 degrees C and trying to limit the temperature to 1.5. We are not yet. Many more efforts must be deployed, and courageous and rapid choices has to be made for clean energy, clean transport, sustainable cities, sustainable agriculture, and forest and ocean preservation. We need to invest, innovate, and bring all citizens on board. Any action from anyone will matter. We want to recognize the vibrant reaction all over the world against US withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. US government decision is not the world citizen choices, nor US citizen choices. A powerful movement has started. We will help it grow to make the transition to a trustful and sustainable society unstoppable. We women are committed to make our planet a great place to live.
Merci donc à tous. Et nous allons donc maintenant entamer la nouvelle table ronde avec Laurence Toubiana, que vous avez donc reconnue sur la scène. Laurence Toubiana, qui est ici à double titre. D'abord parce que c'est elle qui a contribué en coulisses pendant des mois à la réussite de l'accord de la COP21. Maybe I should speak in English. We are now welcoming the new panel. With Laurence Toubiana, who played a key role during the negotiation of the COP21 in Paris, leading to the signature of the treaty. She was there with Laurent Fabius and all the people who work for this agreement. And she's here today as the president and CEO of the new European Climate Foundation based in Brussels. Laurence Toubiana on my right, who is going to talk with us. On peut l'applaudir. Thank you. We are going to speak together about the value of engagement to protect our planet. And to do so, we have also with us Marc Benayoun, who is the CEO of Edison. Welcome. Également Federico Testa, who is the president of Enea. Welcome. So I would like to start maybe with a provocative statement. We have all seen during the last presidential campaign Donald Trump criticizing and joking about the climate change, saying it was a joke, and we thought it was a joke, but then he has been elected, and he decided to leave the treaty, the Paris Treaty, and it was also, it was very much a shock for the whole world. Everybody was worried about the future of the Treaty of Paris. Yes, but can't we say that in a way it is a chance or maybe an opportunity for the climate treaty because it has provoked a reaction all over the world, in the United States of course, but in Europe, in Asia, in China, in India. We have seen many leaders, many local politicians, many mayors, many business people from private sectors, many companies, big companies, who said, we want this treaty to work. And so I would like to ask Laurence Toubiana the first question. Do you think that, as a paradox, maybe Donald Trump gave a new chance to the treaty and maybe gave new energy to the people who are definitely engaged in the climate change treaty and who would like to have the respect and the best development for the treaty signed in Paris? What do you say?
Thank you, Elise, for this provocation. I don't think it's a good news, really, because, of course, the US is a big economy, the first economy at world level, the second emitter, and it's not a good political sign. But in a way, we have to make something good from a bad. And it could be a blessing, as you say. In a way, what is remarkable is that climate change after Paris, after December 2015, was, in a way, had a lot of impact at national level. And I can take many, many examples when we have time. But put that as a very high level of a political agenda, like head of state gathering at G7 around a strong declaration for the Paris Agreement, Prime Minister Modi standing up, the President Xi Jinping many times in Davos first and then after saying we need to really be trustful to our commitments. This is really bringing back in a way the climate agenda as a top high political issue. So in a way that's, but I would say that the resilience of the Paris Agreement, we built the Paris Agreement to resist this type of political shock. That was the philosophy behind that. The philosophy was we need to create a movement, a wave. That's why we put that in the communique, in the appeal, because that's not a government thing. It's a real economy, it's a society challenge, it's a society response and implementation. So for me, yes, I was concerned by Trump's declaration. It was painful to listen to his discourse in the Rose Garden. But at the same time, I was comforted by the immense wave of reaction. But we have not to fool ourselves. It will be tough, it has never to be easy, and now it's a reality check we have to. That's why important that everyone has to be in action mode, in accelerated action mode.
Thank you. May I ask the same question to you, Mark? Would you say that Trump gave a chance to re-energize the fight for climate, for the Paris Treaty? Or what about the private business or the big businesses? Are they going to react to Trump, or how do you see?
Well, I'm not sure that they have noticed, in fact, in the US, because if I look at the large energy companies, a lot of them are actually more and more engaged every day in the fight against climate change. And if I see what's happening in California and in other places of the US, even at the level of the shareholders of Exxon, the biggest oil and gas company worldwide, which 15 years ago was claiming that climate change was not a reality. Today, they believe that they need to act and invest in the right technologies in order to help fight climate change. So I think that the US is already feeling, I would say, the heat, and they want to react at all levels.
Did you meet the former Exxon president before he was Secretary of State?
No, I have not met.
No,
I
okay.
have not met him. No.
Okay, no, but because you talked about Exxon, and in fact, it's quite spectacular to see that big companies like Exxon are supporting the Paris Treaty when the president of Exxon, who is now working with the Trump cabinet, is fighting against it. Same question to you. Would you say that, in fact, Trump has given maybe a boost to the engagement of local people, local mayors, local companies, or big companies to favor the treaty or not?
Ma io penso che quello che ha fatto che sta facendo Trump non sarà in grado di fermare quello che il mondo ha messo in piedi, che oramai è avviato in termini di attenzione al pianeta, attenzione al climate change, e quindi credo che sia pure con alcuni momenti di stop come quelli che magari vivremo nei prossimi anni, ma però sia oramai una tendenza inarrestabile e che quindi sia impossibile fermare questo cambiamento di mentalità che si è diffuso nel nostro mondo oramai.
You know,
Yes.
That's very good you say that, because my plan for Paris was not so much to have a paper and a treaty. It was to have this feeling, this expectation of all actors to say this is unstoppable. This is underway anyway. The train has left the station. And every time I listen to people like you say, anyway, that's done. The movement is there. That's exactly what we were looking for. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not a problem of one deciding, it's a movement and you want to be in there. And it's incredible that a president in such a big country would like to restore 19th century economy when his own economy is just booming in the new technology field. So I'm very happy you said that.
Thank you. Laurence, as you are really probably the person who knows the best the treaty, some people say that even if the US are leaving the treaty, they are leaving the Paris Agreement, it will not change at least for 4 years, because there is at least 3 years of some rules that cannot be affected by the departure of the United States. So is it true that it will take at least a long time, and maybe by that time it would be the end of the first term of Donald Trump?
Yes, that was a provision. Again, we were super prudent in drafting the Paris Agreement with two elements. One, we put, normally a treaty is ratified, it takes 3 or 4 years to do it. But then we made this possible to be ratified and entry into force in only 1 year time. So that was the first precaution, looking at the US election, to be frank. And then the second point was to put that provision that you can't quit immediately. You have at least to wait 3 years. And so that's why, again, making government think twice of ways they would change their views. Because reflection is everything there. And again, I understand the first movement of this administration to say we don't like it. But let's see what the US society decide at the end. And you know, there is a fantastic thing which is happening now. As the government has decided to withdraw, there is now a movement of Myers companies, states, who said we will develop, we will deposit with UNFCCC, with the Convention on Climate Change. You say normally the governments are putting forward a climate plan, what we call the National Determined Contribution, is our jargon. And then the societies, there will be a civil society national contribution of US deposited to the convention. That's fantastic. So I think that's good, because in the next 3 years, whatever happens in the next election, I think we will see huge moves in the US business, in the US cities, and I'm sure even in the Republican camp, to reconsider. So I think we should be firm and wait for sort of a more thinking on the White House side.
Last Saturday in Paris, there was a big meeting in La Sorbonne where President Macron and Laurent Fabius, who signed the treaty, signed a text calling for a new global agreement for climate, for environment, un pacte mondial pour l'environnement. I don't know if you ever heard that. It was last Saturday. And it's going to take a long time before it's going to be effective, because it had to go through a lot of process in the United Nations. And it might be someday part of the United Nations Charter, we will see. But it was quite interesting to see that there was this desire from people, from judges, from des juristes, how do you say, lawyers from around the country to start a new process and trying to federate the involvement for climate and for against climate change and for environment. How is your company engaged in for the environment? How do you do it? Can you tell us concretely what's happening inside your company? Thank you.
Thank you. And, allora, Enea è un'agenzia pubblica, 2600 ricercatori in Italia, nasce dall'energia nucleare subito dopo la Seconda Guerra Mondiale e poi ha allargato il suo campo di interesse a molte altre attività scientifiche. Diciamo che la cosa più che credo faccia la differenza tra l'Enea ed altri enti di ricerca è il tentativo da sempre di entrare nel merito concreto delle cose da fare. Vorrei fare una battuta. Anche fuori da questa sede di oggi, dove ci sono certamente persone molto convinte di quello di cui stiamo parlando, ma anche andando per la strada, a parte Trump, è abbastanza facile trovare persone che ti dicono sono d'accordo sul clima, sulla sostenibilità. Okay. Il problema poi è come costruire concreti processi che intervengano su queste cose, anche a livello molto elementare. Faccio un esempio. Efficienza energetica. La Commissione europea sull'efficienza energetica dice è una delle prime leve da utilizzare. L'efficienza energetica è smart per definizione. Si tratta di usare meno risorse per ottenere gli stessi risultati. Se voi andate a vedere in Italia di efficienza energetica abbiamo parlato moltissimo, ne abbiamo fatta pochissima. Perché l'efficienza energetica è difficile da fare. Non è il modello metto un pannello fotovoltaico sul tetto, produco quell'energia lì, la vendo allo Stato che mi incentiva e mi dà dei soldi, è un modello finanziario e tecnologico semplicissimo. Fare efficienza energetica, soprattutto in un paese che ha magari immobili storici, centri storici molto diffusi, è complicatissimo. Allora, come si può fare per? E noi siamo riusciti ad analizzare quello che era successo. Abbiamo scoperto, per esempio, che in Italia l'efficienza energetica è stata fatta prevalentemente nelle abitazioni singole, nelle villette, nelle piccole case, e non aveva minimamente interessato tutta l'edilizia anni 50, 60, 70, quella post-guerra, seconda guerra mondiale, che poi è tutta l'edilizia delle periferie, che sono le situazioni dove c'è più degrado. E quindi tu hai le periferie con il degrado, dove gli immobili hanno perso più valore e dove consumano di più. Allora abbiamo detto dobbiamo riuscire a trovare gli strumenti per intervenire lì, perché questo ha un valore dal punto di vista della sostenibilità ambientale, ma anche della sostenibilità sociale, perché può aiutare processi di riaggregazione sociale e di sviluppo in aree degradate. Siamo riusciti nell'ultima legge di bilancio dell'anno scorso ad introdurre dei meccanismi che facilitano la diffusione di processi di efficienza energetica nei grandi condomini delle periferie. E questo è stato scritto nell'articolo 2 della legge di bilancio. Quindi dal punto di vista anche emblematico, che l'articolo 2 della legge di bilancio, la legge più importante del nostro paese, parli di efficienza energetica è un grandissimo cambiamento di mentalità. Vuol dire che la cosa finalmente è passata e quindi c'è la convenzione. E poi questo va fatto anche con le piccole e medie imprese e poi soprattutto cercando di allargare questi obiettivi e questi strumenti anche per esempio a tutti i paesi dell'area mediterranea, e noi stiamo cercando di portare avanti processi in questo genere.
Thank you.
Sì.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mark. How do you engage your company, the people who work with you, into the environment protection? Do you have a strategy? I mean, is it something you discuss at the COMEX? You know.
Yes, of course.
How do you
Yes,
do
of
it?
course.
Can you explain us? How do you do it?
Well, we have, I would say, we have two fronts. One front is about making the right technology choices, investments towards a cleaner generation mix, i.e. a mix of production that is emitting less CO2. And in that domain, the EDF group has already done quite a lot. And I can illustrate that with a couple of numbers. Altogether, the EDF group is a very large company, 80 billion euro of turnover, serving more than 30 million customers worldwide. And the average rate of emission, CO2 emission, that we have within our mix is 77 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour of production, which maybe doesn't tell you much, but the European average is 350. So our mix is emitting 20% of that. And if I compare that to the mix of our key competitors, and I will not give the names, this is not the issue here, but if I take one competitor in Spain, in Italy, in France, or in Germany, the numbers we are talking about are 225, 410, 450, or 700. So, you know, this tells you that we already have achieved quite a lot when it comes to clean power production. And here in Italy, we are investing at the moment, we are working very hard, also with the help of the government, to actually reduce the coal generation. There is still some coal-fired power in Italy, when there is so much, you know, sun and also wind in some parts of the country. And we are investing in renewables big time in order to take the share of renewable power within our mix from 25% today to 40%. And of course, renewables are emitting zero. So this is obviously one front. But the second front, which I think is even more important and probably less known or documented, is how to mobilize people, and in particular, women. I think first, all energy companies have to work hard to bring women at decision-making tables. We are an industry, and especially here in the south of Europe, where we don't do that very well. And I can tell you about some things that I've been able to change over the last 2 years at Edison, starting from the top. At the board level, we had 20% of women, now we have 55%. So we are one of the very few companies in Italy where the board has a majority of women. At the executive committee level, we went from 0 to 2 in a COMEX with 10 people. Mid-management positions from 18 to 24. And I have actually put in place a transformation team to take Edison to the next level.
Was it difficult to find all these women? Because some people say...
Absolutely not. They were knocking on the door.
Some people say... No, but I am asking the question. Please answer. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. They were knocking on the door. And we have put in place a transformation team with 30 people, where half women, half men. And actually, this is a tool which is helping Edison transform and work in a much more efficient and effective way. But I also think we have to develop energy solutions for families, for people. And actually, if we think just for a minute, who is making the decisions in families? Women. So in the past, energy companies have worked a lot on technology, offers, prices. We also have to bring effective, pragmatic solutions to the people that can help them fight climate change and that can help them use energy more efficiently. As Federico has said, there's a lot to do to improve energy efficiency. And this is not only at the company levels, this is also done at the family level. It's possible to reduce quite easily energy consumption by 15, 20% if we bring the right tools to the people with very, very little investment to be made. And finally, I would like to make a comment, which is the importance in this fight of emerging countries. And I really believe that in emerging countries, women are the first to be hit because they are the most vulnerable by the energy poverty. And they can also be the first. They are in the first line, as the ministry said. It's a line of defense, but if we give them the right tools, if we empower them, they can be the first line of attack. And I can give you one example which touched me really when I went to India. I have worked a little bit with a microcredit company, which is actually serving the poorest of the poor in the suburbs of Bangalore and other cities in India. And this microcredit company has realized that they have to lend money to women and not men, because the women are much more reliable. They understand the chance that they are given when they receive money to actually make change in their families, to actually make some, I would say, critical investments to help their family live better, to help them get decent food, security, learning conditions for the children. And I think that also that is true and well known and documented in the microcredit world. I think also in the energy world we have to unleash that potential.
Thank you. And my question about how did you find these women, was it difficult? But where were these women that now are 55% of the were they in the company, or did you go to look for them outside the company?
No, they were in the company just below the glass ceiling.
Okay. Okay. And one more question about the difference between men and women. Who are the more involved naturally in protecting environment? Are the men more involved, or women more involved? And can you explain it? Can you explain it? And I will ask the same question to Laurence also, of course. And to you.
Well, I think that women are more inclusive, and they take a more transversal view of the issues we are facing. So men will work hard to have an impact on one item, typically CO2 emission in a plant. But women will think also in terms of biodiversity, energy efficiency, engagement of the people. So they take a broader view on this issue, which is extremely effective, I think.
Laurence, what is your point of view?
Well, if I look at my own sort of career and engagement, when I started dealing with environment, and in particular with this sort of very male issue about energy, which normally you don't see any woman in there. And I started that, and it was 1997 with the Kyoto Protocol process. It was very difficult to agree, and there was really a male-dominating thing. In Paris, I used that network of women to get the agreement done, really. The executive secretary of the UNFCCC was a woman, is now again a woman. The head of the G77, the developing country group, were two incredible South African ladies, very, very strong and very, very helpful. And in many of the delegation, Latin American countries in particular, I worked with these women because we generated trust between us. And I can tell you an anecdote. The last day of the COP, that was really a big anxiety because we never know if we could agree on the text that the French presidency was presenting. And it was very early in the morning. It was 7 a.m. I haven't slept for many nights. And I present to the toughest groups, the one who were more aggressive and more, where we have anxiety about the result. Some developing countries, emerging countries group, oil exporting countries. And I present the text and said, I was exhausted. And I tell them, I can't do better. That's the best thing I can offer you. You can like things, you can hate things in there, but it's the best compromise I can offer you. And so I just stopped. And I was really almost to the point to cry because I was just exhausted. And then everyone, led by one woman who was a Venezuelan ambassador, just get up and they embrace me and say, we'll trust you. And that, I think, the trust impact is really something we can produce. And I really think that's a question women can bring to.
Merci. What about you, Federico? The difference between man and woman engagement in environment? Have you seen the difference?
Yeah. Enea ha vissuto dei momenti delicati negli ultimi 15 anni, nel senso che la politica italiana ha lasciato l'Enea in una situazione di limbo, di commissariamento, quindi con un futuro indeterminato, 11 degli ultimi 15 anni, quindi una situazione abbastanza terribile e irresponsabile. Da 3 anni questa cosa è stata superata e quindi abbiamo cominciato a rilanciare questa istituzione di ricerca. Le prime cose che abbiamo fatto sono state quelle di azzerare la struttura organizzativa e cominciare a fare concorsi aperti, e con questo strumento si è non del tutto ancora, ma si è un po' rovesciata la situazione originaria, che era una situazione assolutamente maschilista. Quindi noi adesso abbiamo parecchie responsabilità dal punto di vista femminili in realtà importanti. A parità di fondi statali noi abbiamo un programma di assunzione di 600 ricercatori nei prossimi 3 anni. E io credo che questo riuscirà da un lato ad equilibrare ancora di più il rapporto donne e uomini. Io all'università ho una squadra con cui lavoro che sono prevalentemente donne, sono tutte più brave di me, e poi anche abbassare l'età media. Dal punto di vista del coinvolgimento è chiaro che le nuove generazioni hanno una capacità di... sono diverse, lo vedo anche all'università quando fai il professore. Non sono meglio o peggio. Anche ieri sera a cena discutevamo, dice ma come sono i giovani adesso? È vero, cioè probabilmente gli dai un libro da 800 pagine e non sanno cosa farne, perché è la prima volta che vedono un libro così grande. Però sono molto più veloci, molto più capaci di fare molte cose. E da questo punto di vista c'è una diffusione generalizzata, sia tra gli uomini che le donne, delle generazioni più giovani, di sensibilità rispetto a questi temi. Quindi io sarei ottimista.
Merci. Laurence Subiana, could you tell us, I know it's difficult, but as you are now working in Europe, among Europe, which are the countries that are the more engaged? Which are the countries that there is a lot to be done and more to be done? It's difficult to classify, okay, but from what you understand, where is it working well? Where is there a lot of work to do?
Well, of course, the contexts are very, very different from one country to another one. And beginning by my country, where on one side we have been doing well on some elements of the power production because of the nuclear base, but we are lagging behind on renewable energy. And I'm very glad that EDF has embarked on this story. So on transport, I think we can just do better. So even countries that say we are in the leadership role are not always really complying. On energy efficiency, we are lagging behind as well. So of course, and then of course you have countries like, I can take Poland or Hungary or many Eastern Europe countries who has a huge lock-in in coal. And that's a big major challenge for them, like for Germany, by the way. And they have to organize a professional transition out of coal and to find new jobs for these groups. And then you have, of course, other countries like Denmark, a very small country, very strong on wind energy because of their particular context, who can lead. And it is that combination of leading countries but specific problems that are really facing the problem of Europe. So my feeling, my philosophy is one, we have in a way to take the Paris approach for Europe, meaning understanding everyone's concerns and seeing how we can improve over time with, of course, pressuring each other and creating trust between each other to get Poland and the Eastern countries really choosing renewable energy or other forms of energy and really being strong on energy efficiency. I think on the other side, on the big country side, we have to really demonstrate the leadership. So Germany, France, and I hope UK will continue with in or out. And of course, under your presidency, I think we can make a lot of progress, particularly these days where we are discussing and preparing the package. I think we can do a lot on just showing that the more affluent countries in Europe demonstrate that it is good for the economy. And that could create the trust for the other one who are concerned about. So that's why I think I, of course, agree enormously with Nicolas Hulot on the double responsibility of Europe. We have to show international leadership, again, but we have to demonstrate that we are doing things properly at home. And this is really the urgency, and I know everything is relying on you for really delivering good results for this presidency already, and I understand there were very tough discussions these days in Brussels and on the energy efficiency area, but I think we have to convince the societies in Europe that it's good for the economy, it's good for the employment, and there is really a rationale behind that. And so, for me, that's very similar. What we create for Paris, we have now to create not something top-down, but something really coming from the societies. And I'm sure you are really doing that. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any question in the room to our panelists? That, if not, yes, there is one. Please, could you please introduce yourself? I'm going to give you the mic. To who you want to address the question.
I don't want to ask any question, I'll make a comment. Aren't we all capable of doing that? Okay, my name is Michael, so the mic is right for me. I'm working in Tunisia with my Tunisian wife, and we're on microfinance and helping poor people. I just wanted to say one thing. My generation, okay, and I'm probably the oldest person in the room, we've consumed the environment over all these years, and what is not yet understood, according to me, is that to improve the environment is going to be costly. And this is something we have to put into the equation. It's going to cost, and costing is going to reduce what we've got left to spend.
Merci. Any other comments or question in the room? No? Yes, you do. Please, Madame President. Oui.
Can I share a comment?
Please.
Hearing the French minister and hearing each and every member of the panel gives us hope. But we need truly effective actions, and effective actions that maybe we can target more than one objective. So climate change is very much related to poverty. Climate change is very much related to social justice, to peace. And I think, as Europeans in particular, we need to think more outside the box, how we can target climate change within our own countries, but also within our region and even beyond. I always think of Africa, this big continent, which has so much to give. And at the same time, I also think of how the European Union helps out with development aid. But at the same time, we seem to be running on the spot, even though many initiatives are being taken, but the overall result is much to be desired still. So one of these, for example, I'm going to give a concrete example, which maybe your state's research agency can indulge into, and Italy is very, like Malta, is very much concerned with what is happening in Africa. The Sahara Desert, it's such a big mass of land and has this potential of to give solar energy, an alternative energy, no fossil fuels. It could fire up Africa. I'm sure if our nations, together with those countries within Africa, which would like to come together, collaborate with the private sector as well, we could develop green jobs in Africa. We could develop further technical and innovations in Europe. We could then, if Africa is actually fired in terms giving it the energy that it needs, so all Africa will have the electricity. All Africa could then, where there is a lack of water, scarcity of water, they can desalinate water, like Malta does, for example. We depend on water desalination in my country, but that is very costly because you need the energy to do that. We could also, if we manage to fire Africa in terms of energy, then even the adaptation to climate change, they could have their homes with air conditioning and they don't need to move all the time. They would have the jobs, they would have the necessity facilities to live a better life. I am convinced that even though I am really stupid on the subject, because I am no scientist myself, but I am sure that we have managed to go to the moon, we have managed to go around the universe now, and we're always going further and further away. Our technology is really super. I'm sure we can also import in Europe this solar energy from Africa. So instead of throwing money at the problems, we will be truly investing in Africa and investing sustainably, because we would be helping out to reduce conflicts, to reduce inequalities, to actually make social justice something which is meaningful for all the African people. And we will be also benefiting. Many of us import fossil fuels from African countries. So instead of importing fossil fuel, we might import solar energy. There's such a lot we can do. And I think now is the time to continue, because we have the intellectual ability to do that, to think outside the box, not just solely within our immediate region, but we must look further and try, because we can't continue to lose time. We're losing time. Every year we say, if the Earth will heat a further degree, it's chaos. But at the same time, we are not getting the results, even though the many initiatives, and I am proud of the many initiatives that we take, but that is not enough. We need much better results and immediate results, so we must think outside the box and not think solely and focusing on our emergency, but we need to think how we can create initiatives, build initiatives to target more than one objective. I really would like to commend the Minister for France for bringing climate change within this really deep context. Thank you.
Merci. One of the key points we have seen today is the importance of the partnership between government, NGOs, and private sector. Mark, how do you work with NGO and government? What is your strategy? And do you think it's really the winning solution for environment?
Well, yes, obviously, because we need to mobilize everybody. And as we said today, the change is coming bottom up today. 15, 20 years ago, when the reality of climate change was, I would say, when people started to understand, it was very much a fight fought by the elite, right? Scientists. Today, it's coming also bottom up, and that's actually the big change. You know, we mentioned Exxon today. Why are they taking notice? Because the shareholders are asking for that, right? And in a shareholder meeting, they said, what are you doing, talking to the management, in order to make sure that we continue to extract oil and gas, but in a more sustainable way, you know, emitting less CO2. So I think that is very important. And another another area where we need to work very hard is towards an effective price signal for CO2. And there we need to work at the level of governments, companies, NGOs, scientists, academics. Jean Tirole, for instance, the recent Nobel Prize of Economy, wrote very interesting pages about that, but we have not yet come up with an effective solution to actually incentivize the clean ways of using and producing energy, right? And on the other way around, to actually reduce the competitiveness of the old fossil-fired and coal-fired plants. So this carbon price signal is a frontier today of our regulation, and we need to work together towards that.
Merci. Federico?
Se davvero si vuole avere un approccio bottom-up, noi, soprattutto con riferimento alle cose che venivano dette, dobbiamo portare nei paesi dell'Africa, partendo magari da quelli del Mediterraneo, tecnologie che siano realisticamente utilizzabili a livello diffuso e con modelli diversi da quelli che abbiamo nelle nostre aree dove c'è una concentrazione urbana molto forte. Vi faccio un esempio. In Senegal, la valle più fertile dove si produceva tutta la frutta e la verdura del Senegal era appena dentro dal mare, e avevano l'acqua veniva distribuita con pompe elettriche alimentati da generatori a gasolio. Quella valle era uno dei posti più inquinati dell'Africa. Allora, abbiamo fatto un progetto, abbiamo sostituito le pompe mettendo pompe ad alto rendimento, progetto fatto da noi insieme con una ONG locale e con il Ministero degli Esteri, pompe ad alto rendimento, pannelli solari a cumuli, tutte cose fatte da piccole e medie imprese italiane che hanno portato là le tecnologie. In questo momento, in quella valle là, l'inquinamento non c'è più. E quindi non solo le persone che lavorano respirano meglio, ma anche i prodotti poi sono prodotti meno inquinati. E adesso uno dei problemi è quello non solo di portare le tecnologie, ma di portare le competenze per intervenire sulle tecnologie. Allora noi abbiamo lanciato come Enea un progetto al nostro Ministro della Pubblica Istruzione, che è una donna, e per costruire delle collaborazioni tra i nostri istituti tecnici e le scuole nei paesi africani in via di sviluppo. Sostanzialmente cosa succede? Noi abbiamo dei pannelli fotovoltaici che vengono sequestrati dalla Guardia di Finanza, dalla polizia, perché sono fuori regola. In Italia non rispettano, magari dovevano aver scritto Unione Europea e invece non li facevano in Cina ed erano, ecco. Vengono sequestrati. Noi li regaliamo alle scuole con un kit fotovoltaico per illuminare, alle scuole italiane, per illuminare, per fargli vedere come funziona, e li costruiamo dei modelli che poi le singole scuole finanziano, 1 euro a studente all'anno, quindi il costo di una merendina, e ogni scuola italiana adotta una scuola piuttosto che un ospedale africano. Perché così si diffonde, cioè, il ragionamento della solidarietà, il ragionamento che siamo tutti in un unico mondo, lo diffondi così, non solo con i comizi, i discorsi, ma anche facendo capire che cosa si può fare concretamente e quindi con i soldi che recuperiamo dagli studenti, oltre a dare alle scuole africane il kit, riusciamo a finanziare la formazione dei ragazzi africani in modo tale che se si dovesse rompere qualcosa loro hanno le competenze per poter intervenire, perché uno dei problemi nei paesi in via di sviluppo è che tu porti la tecnologia, appena si rompe resta lì perché non c'è nessuno che è in grado di metterci le mani. Quindi credo che ci siano spazi enormi di intervento coinvolgendo poi le imprese private, perché poi le imprese, noi facendo così, voglio dire, come Agenzia Nazionale Italiana, creiamo anche delle opportunità di mercato per le nostre imprese che hanno tecnologie sostenibili e che si aprono a mercati nei quali se no non riuscirebbero ad arrivare da soli. E quindi da questo punto di vista è un'azione a favore del clima, a favore dello sviluppo di questi paesi, ma anche un'azione a favore delle piccole e medie imprese italiane. In Italia il 93% delle imprese sono più piccole di 15 dipendenti, quindi small business. Come un'impresa così piccola va in Senegal? Fa fatica. Se ci va con noi riesce ad arrivare e riesce a stare dentro un progetto più grande che le consente di allargarsi anche a nuovi mercati.
Thank you. Okay, in a few moments we're going to hear the French ambassador to Rome, but first I would like to give the last word to Laurence. What do you think of all this? Can you maybe in a few words summarize what we need to do? What is your vision of what needs to be done? Speaking about the partnership between private sector, ONG and government, what do you think about it?
Well, I think the movement, as we have said and recognized and just witnessed, is launched. So action is taking place, many stakeholders are working together, and so in a way we need first to institutionalize this cooperation. And this is needed because too often we can have announcement, targets, commitments that are never really put in place. So we need some kind of accountability system, together with the NGOs, the universities, the private sector, the government, to make sure that at least the commitments are really implemented. So that's first. But second, we are not there. We are far from really complying, really respecting this temperature level, which in a way is already very dangerous for many, many countries. So we have to accelerate action and to see what does it take really to be Paris compatible. But it's not Paris, it's about just climate safety. And what does it take is really to decarbonize deeply the economy. So my call these days, and because of the foundation I'm running now, is really to call every stakeholders, government, companies, and I'm in discussion with your company in particular to do that, Myers, region, to say what their economy, their business model would look like by 2050 to be net zero carbon economy. And that's something we have to get precise response. It's not numbers we need trajectories, pathways, concrete steps to know what it is, how different is the economy, how the chemical industry, the cement, the glass, the new urban planning will look like if we are serious about climate change. And then engage a discussion in each society. Then engage a discussion bottom up and top down to really make sure that we are really working seriously. So very good what we launch. We have to overachieve that. We have to accelerate action, but we have to commit for the long term.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you. And I would like to welcome on the stage Catherine Colonna, l'ambassadrice de France à Rome, qui va prendre la parole. Voilà, Catherine.
Merci Ulysse. Je te prends le micro, je vais essayer de ne pas te cacher. Non, je t'en prie, reste là. Merci de votre accueil. Ulysse, je t'en prie, assieds-toi vraiment. On se connaît depuis tellement longtemps que je ne voudrais pas l'obliger à rester debout et moi à m'asseoir. Non, merci Chiara. Merci de votre accueil, disais-je, et je suis heureuse de pouvoir vous saluer, d'abord vous saluer toutes, c'est-à-dire toutes les participantes du Women's Forum, et puis Chiara, si vous voulez bien le transmettre à Clara, votre présidente, qui doit être sous la loggia, la remercier d'avoir choisi l'Italie pour cette édition du Women's Forum Europe 2017. Puis je voudrais aussi saluer nos messieurs. Credo sinceramente che abbiamo bisogno di un po' di tutto e di tutti. Donc, merci à vous. By the way, apologies for those of you not speaking French. As the French ambassador to Italy, there's just no way I can express myself in other language than French. Mais vous comprendrez tous de toute façon. Alors, m'inviter à parler du climat après Nicolas Hulot, c'est gentil, c'est un grand honneur, mais c'est un peu comme inviter un ténor à chanter après Pavarotti. Hein, c'est un exercice délicat, et le faire de plus en présence de Laurence Toubiana, c'est un exercice redoutable. Je ne vais pas reprendre ce qui a été déjà dit, ou reprendre le fond de ce qu'est l'accord de Paris, mais essayer de vous expliquer en quelques mots, de façon diplomatique, mais sans plus, quelle est la stratégie de notre pays pour tenir compte du retrait américain. Et quand je dis de notre pays, c'est de notre pays avec l'Italie et avec ses autres partenaires européens, bien sûr, puisque, comme l'a dit Laurence Toubiana, la clé, c'est non seulement pour l'Europe de rester unie, mais de garder le rôle de leader qu'elle a pu avoir jusqu'ici et qui a permis très largement l'accord de Paris. Qu'avons-nous essayé de faire ? D'abord, le sommet du G7 à Taormine, il y a juste un mois, il y a très exactement un mois, avant que le président américain n'ait pris sa décision. Donc 26-27 mai, les 7, dans un format intéressant, parce que ça n'est pas seulement l'Europe, et ça n'est pas l'Europe face aux États-Unis, mais ce sont les Européens, représentés par un certain nombre d'entre eux, l'Asie, représentée par le Japon, et l'Amérique du Nord, représentée par le Canada. Et il était utile que le président américain entende, de la part de beaucoup de pays du monde, de pays importants et d'horizons différents, des arguments simples, non confrontationnels, je dirais pédagogiques, tentant de faire avancer sa réflexion et en tout cas d'éviter une décision précipitée, une décision hâtive de retrait. Donc les 6, 7 moins États-Unis, s'étaient beaucoup parlé en amont, de façon à essayer de se répartir les rôles et de trouver les bons arguments pour faire évoluer la réflexion du président Trump et éviter qu'il ne prenne lors du G7, ce qui aurait été un coup terrible, une décision peut-être pas suffisamment mûrie. Il ne faut pas cacher pour autant que la décision américaine est un coup terrible à l'accord de Paris. Il ne faut pas se le cacher. Et il ne faut pas se le cacher pour pouvoir faire l'analyse juste et trouver les moyens de réagir. C'est un coup terrible, je ne vais pas faire long là-dessus, mais qu'un État important, démocratique, ne respecte pas tout à fait sa signature, parce que si on dit les choses clairement, c'est un peu ça qui s'est passé. Ça n'est pas une excellente nouvelle, et il fallait éviter que ça ait un effet d'entraînement. Et pas une très bonne nouvelle non plus, le fait que les États-Unis, qui sont le deuxième émetteur de gaz à effet de serre de la planète, ils ont longtemps été le premier, la Chine est désormais le premier, mais les États-Unis sont le second. Donc le retrait américain crée un problème dans un dispositif dont nous savons par ailleurs, quels que soient les mérites de l'accord de Paris, que même s'il était appliqué, et le but du jeu va être de l'appliquer, il ne permettrait pas, compte tenu des engagements souscrits par les États, de se situer à l'objectif fixé d'un réchauffement limité à 2 degrés. Donc même une application pleine et entière de l'accord de Paris, nous ne sommes pas tout à fait sur la trajectoire idéale. Inutile de vous dire que le retrait américain crée un problème. Il crée un troisième problème qui est un problème de financement. Pour faire fonctionner l'accord de Paris, je ne vais pas entrer dans les technicalities, il faut un fonds pour que les riches aident les moins riches à tenir leurs engagements. Il va y avoir un trou, et ce trou, il va falloir le compenser, trouver les moyens de compenser. Taormine, dans l'esprit que je vous disais, n'a pas atteint tous ses objectifs. La meilleure preuve en est qu'il se quitte le samedi et que le jeudi suivant, le président Trump, après avoir réfléchi certainement, annonce sa décision de retirer les États-Unis de l'accord de Paris. Que faisons-nous depuis ? Il y a eu d'abord le G7 ministériel de l'environnement à Bologne, il y a une quinzaine de jours, avec Nicolas Hulot. Et l'objectif que s'est donné non seulement les Européens, mais les 6 du pacte de 7, puisque c'était la première réunion du G7 après la décision de retrait américain, a été de privilégier le maintien de l'existence de ce groupe de 7. Nous ne voulons pas acter une cassure, nous voulons permettre que les États-Unis, le temps évoluant, peut-être les raisonnements évoluant, peut-être, Laurence, tu as pu le dire, je ne peux pas le dire, d'autres circonstances évoluant, reviennent, quand ils le souhaiteront, s'ils le souhaitent, dans l'accord de Paris. Et l'axe d'effort à Bologne des ministres, et d'abord de notre ministre d'État, a été de faire que les 7 continuent d'exister comme un groupe de 7, adoptent une déclaration à 7, donc il y a un communiqué à 7, un communiqué comme on le fait parfois en diplomatie pour être d'accord, pour dire que l'on a un désaccord, mais le grand mérite était de ne pas acter le départ des États-Unis de cette affaire. Il y a d'autres points dans la déclaration de Bologne sur lesquels nous sommes tous assez facilement d'accord, et de répéter de la part des 6, donc pas seulement l'Europe, Europe, Asie, Amérique du Nord, que l'accord de Paris, il s'agit de l'appliquer, il ne s'agit pas de le renégocier. L'accord de Paris ne sera pas renégocié, nous allons l'appliquer. Comment va-t-on l'appliquer ? Je paraphrase donc de façon triviale ce qu'a dit en termes choisis et excellents notre président de la République. Nous allons avancer. Et nous allons avancer avec les Européens, nous allons avancer avec nos amis italiens, nous allons avancer avec tous nos partenaires pour non pas ignorer les États-Unis, non pas ignorer le président Trump, mais faire sans lui. Pardon d'être là aussi une diplomate qui manque de diplomatie, mais il va falloir faire sans Trump pendant quelque temps. Faire, vous le savez, avec les États fédérés, avec les villes, notamment aux États-Unis, avec le secteur privé ou certaines entreprises du secteur privé. Nous avons besoin de toutes les bonnes volontés pour continuer à avancer et nous continuerons à avancer. Après Bologne, il y aura le G20, très bientôt, début juillet. Et puis nous avons pu engranger, si j'ose dire, entre-temps, d'abord hier, l'initiative du groupe des 40 grandes villes que l'on appelle le C40. Et donc, dans le monde entier, de grandes villes, pilotées, vous l'avez vu hier par Anne Hidalgo, qui est actuellement la présidente du C40, vont aider la communauté internationale à tenir l'objectif des accords de Paris. Autre contribution engrangée là aussi récemment, et qui est bien utile, ce projet de pacte, tu en parlais Ulysse, porté par Laurent Fabius, mais préparé bien au-delà de la France par des contributeurs scientifiques, entrepreneurs, savants, techniciens du monde entier, avec pour objectif, et le président de la République le fera en septembre à l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies, de lancer un processus qui permette d'avoir un pacte opposable, juridiquement contraignant, sur l'environnement. De même que nous avons un pacte sur les droits civils et politiques et un pacte des Nations unies qui peut être créateur de droits. Ce sera un long parcours, il est évident que ça, ce sera une affaire que nous lancerons, que nous suivrons, mais qui prendra plusieurs années. Néanmoins, ce maillage sur toute la planète et à tous les niveaux est la meilleure chose que nous puissions faire pour pouvoir faire avancer les choses et appliquer l'accord de Paris. Et c'est dans ce cadre, et je conclurai là, que l'initiative que vous avez prise, non seulement est bienvenue, non seulement est importante, mais elle est indispensable. Et donc je vous remercie non seulement aussi de l'avoir prise, mais de continuer cet automne, d'utiliser la dynamique que nous lançons, de vous inscrire dans cette dynamique et de nous aider à faire que notre planète brûle un peu moins, parce que l'enjeu, il est là. Merci à vous.
I would just like to thank you, this outstanding panel and our ambassador, and tell you that maybe the given information. We will follow up, of course, we will launch a signature with Laurence, as we said, all around the world, all persons of influence, all persons engaged for the protected planet. And of course, the President of Malta will be very pleased. Antonio Tajani yesterday already said he will be one of the first signatories. It's a question of Europe, of society, as we said. And I will give you all rendezvous in Paris on the 5th and 6th of October, because in Carrousel du Louvre, we'll see who signed, who is supporting us as Women's Forum. We'll have a global meeting there. And I take this opportunity to say that it will be one of the focus of our global meeting. It will be the climate change, how to protect the planet, and how we women have to deal on that. Thank you so much for all of that. We have just a small networking breakfast, and then we'll start with the last panel on peace.